Hey, I'm Cody. If you don't know me yet, I'm the producer behind both Lofi Cody, of course, as well as Janeway Protocol, and I want to share a bit of a track breakdown for my latest project is Janeway Protocol called Bloom. This track is really exciting for me because so much of it is real instruments and real human performances and sounds made uniquely for this track. And the whole thing started with this kalimba that I got for $30 Canadian on Amazon. And I tuned it up. Some of the these higher prongs aren't even tunable. They're just kind of garbage, but that's what you get for $30 Canadian. But as soon as I tuned it up, I played this little melody and I just filmed it on my phone to send to my Discord server, the Lofi Lair, and say, hey guys, check it out. I got a kalimba. And a couple people responded, that melody is sick. You need to do something with that. So I recorded it using a little bit nicer mic than my phone into Ableton, through some processing on it. And I've got a bunch of parallel processing going on. So here's just the body of it, which in retrospect, I should have put some foam or a towel, or I don't know what I could fit in the kalimba, something in there to calm some of those overtones. But then the high end, I use Gaffle to split frequencies and send just the high end into a bunch of delay and different effects that together you get this really dreamy sounding, which has almost a vocal quality to it. I don't know if you guys could hear that, but to me it almost sounds like there's a voice in the background following the melody, which is not, it's just the kalimba. but always the next step after I do something like that is drums. And this is where I realized I messed up, because this isn't a 4/4 melody. It's in 3/4. And that's not really, you don't do that in dance music. If you don't know, most dance music's in 4/4, unless you were talking about a waltz or something. But I figured out I could throw this kick on it. And this kick is a sample I made for this. It's based on a real kick drum that I had my friend Colson Kina from Colson Kina Studios in Vancouver. I asked him to record a bunch of just one shots, him just hitting drums in his studio. So I had some stuff to work with to make my own samples. And this kick came out of that. Some pretty heavy handed processing to make it a little subbier. But I figured out just kick on every beat. And it doesn't feel like it's 3/4. You feel like you can dance to it. Put a snare on every third. And it makes it a kind of a polyrhythm, like a 3/4 polyrhythm. So every couple bars, the snare actually lines up. This snare is just a bunch of stacked. This is a snare I made for a sample making competition. This is a clap I just found online somewhere. This is some random Foley I recorded in my room. And all together, they make a cool snare, again, with the little pre-snare swoop up, which is just one of the sounds reversed. And then I added some percussion, and most of this percussion is actually me just tapping this kalimba and scraping it and stuff. It's funny because it kind of sounds not great on its own, which is how a lot of cool music turns out. But then just adds texture and movement, and that's actually pretty minimal drums for me. I usually have a lot more layers of percussion, but because the kalimba is so percussion-y, I thought that would kind of carry its weight there. But then at this point, actually, I think the next thing I did was the piano. Where is it here? Which I unfortunately don't have a real grand piano, so I just recorded on a keyboard and then sent the MIDI to the Noir Felt as a contact instrument. I really love Noir because it captures a lot of the extra details of, the keys being hit and the mechanical sound. So it's very responsive to my playing on the keyboard, so it still feels like a real piano. And again, with the parallel processing, I've got here, let me solo just the piano. We've got this clean channel, which is just the body. And then I've got this one with just these dreamy area effects that all together, it makes this very lush piano, and the mix. It's sounding very full, but now I felt there's that kind of vocal quality I thought I was hearing in the kalimba, together with some the just like rogue overtones in the grand piano. I was like, man, I really want to lean into that voice sound. And initially, I just had a sample library with some voices that I was trying to use pads. And I thought at this point, most of these sounds I made myself. Most of these sounds only exist for this track. It just felt like cheating to use a vocal like sample library, vocals that aren't my own. I thought about recording my own voice. I can sing, but I have a pretty raspy voice, if you can't guess from my speaking voice. And I was like, that's just not the vibe I want. I need someone with a really pure voice. So I threw it out in my Discord community again, the Lofi Lair, shout out. And I was like, hey, can any of you hit this high note in this pad line to record some real vocals for me? And Tyler hit me back first, and he's like, not really, but I could record it an octave down and you could shift it up. And I was like, okay, that could work. So I got Tyler's voice and I used Little Altar Boy with just a really low mix percentage to add an octave down. And then Evelyn, who is, by the way, that's Tyler Pittman. He's also a music producer. He makes like lo-fi and video game music. Go check out his stuff. Evelyn, who is the producer behind Coffee Date, which is a Game Chops artist, makes lo-fi beats as well. She's like, that note is the highest note I can possibly hit my falsetto if you want me to try. And I was like, that would be great. I would love to hear your attempt. And she sent me this and just very minor pitch correction and EQ. I did both just arbitrarily. It's not even really doing anything. But again, that Altar Boy with a low mix to add an octave. So that together comped, it's like a 4-voice pad. And I just thought it was awesome. At certain points in the song, it really comes through and you can really tell that it's, a voice. And I think that adds so much. I think at this point, I probably went to the bass. This is really simple. I usually like to record real bass guitar if I'm doing like a more groove-based bass. If there's a groove to my bass line, I want to use a real guitar. But because these are just pads, these are just some really simple Ableton synths that I'm using to add some bass pads. And then I went to guitar, and I've been experimenting a lot with dual tracking. So like down here, I've recorded twice. Oops, it's muted. There we go. So you record the same part twice, pan one hard left, pan the second take hard right, overlay them, and you get just really cool stereo effects. I have this Martin acoustic guitar, and here let me shout out my acoustic guitar real quick. So I've had this Martin for 12 years at least. It was the cheapest Martin I could possibly buy, and I bought it to take on a tour, a North American tour I was doing with a little band way back in the college days. And it's held up. It sounds great. It's a great little guitar. Best 450 Canadian I ever spent. But the like preamp in it sucks. You don't want to plug this in if you can avoid it. It's better to mic it. And I don't really have an ideal mic for miking an acoustic guitar. So I just used like a little condenser mic I have that I initially bought for my voice, but it doesn't work great. And that's a whole other story. But the side effect of recording that way is you get all of you can hear the guitar rubbing against my shirt. You can hear me breathing, but it's kind of cool because my breath is going through the reverb and all the effects, and it becomes like another layer of cool ambience that I really don't mind. And again, it makes it really unique. Like nobody else has me breathing in their track. We'll say that. But I recorded this little line that I thought was dope, and I recorded these kind of choppy chords for this part, and then I do this little filter drop. I'm just soloing. I'm just vibing, and I just improvised for the full length of the song and then cut out a couple parts that I thought were cool, threw them in there. And at this point, I was super happy with this track. I thought, hold on, I'm going to get this guitar off my lap. But yeah, at this point, I was super happy with this track. I was like, I feel like it's almost done. I just need to spend some time mixing, added some effects. I've been messing around a lot with, I've your typical like reverse cymbals and stuff, but these are some of my kalimba sounds that I recorded. Just reversed with reverb. Also, I got this rain stick sample, which I didn't record. I don't have a rain stick, unfortunately, but I found a cool sample of a rain stick that I just reverse and add a bunch of reverb. I think that sounds cool. I don't know about you guys. So I was adding that kind of stuff. And then my friend Mateo came over and then he just started improvising. And I figured out that I could plug into his keyboard to record the MIDI out. And he's just shredding. Gave me like 5 or 6 different lines. Ended up using 4 or 5 of them. And this just really took it to a whole nother level. This is a Serum preset I made trying to sound like a Rhodes keyboard. This is an actual like Rhodes emulator for this point. And then at the end, I split this one out and I sent him a message. I was like, hey man, do you mind if I cut this one part of your improvisation out and put it to like a totally different synth sound? And he's like, yeah, do whatever you want, man. But it's so sick. It almost sounds like a slide guitar or something, but that's just, that's a Serum preset I made based on a bassoon sample. And that just sold it. I almost wanted, it's one of those things where you have a moment that's so cool, you almost want to just loop that through the whole song, but then it makes it less special. So yeah, altogether then, that is Bloom. I'm realizing now that in my little cue up here, I misspelled the word chords, which is classic. Chords. This doesn't matter. Why am I making changes? This song is released. So this track released everywhere the same day as this video on June 2nd. If you're watching this video and it is not yet June 2nd, that's because you're one of my patrons over on Patreon. And you've had access to this track for like a week already, as well as the mini sample pack with all the drum sounds I made for this track. So thank you so much for supporting me on Patreon. Everyone else, if you're seeing this for the first time on YouTube and it's after June 2nd, this track Bloom by Janeway Protocol is out everywhere. I'll try to be on top of updating the video with links as you can find it on Spotify or Bandcamp or Apple Music or whatever you use to listen to stuff. This is the first track of a project I'm working on to try to make the most human and creative and unique, like, dance music, I suppose. It's kind of chill, but this type of music that I possibly can. Organic house, I guess you'd call it. And I'm really trying to include a lot of different people and a lot of different instruments and make it very human and very real and very one of a kind. And this is a passion project for me. I'm spending way longer on every track than I usually do. So if that's something you're interested in, consider subscribing or following. You can follow for free on Patreon just to stay in the loop and get stuff early still. But yeah, this is a huge undertaking. I'm really passionate about this. I hope it can inspire some of you to create your own stuff. All that to say, that's Bloom. Check it out on your preferred streaming platform. Stay cozy out there. Autofocus on my camera keeps trying to like focus on the K-pop Demon Hunters on the poster behind me instead of on my face, which, like, understandably they're a lot prettier than me, but I'm here, camera. Pay attention to me.